See, what's funny about most of the stuff I record for my channel, I like record it as either as stuff comes to me, or I pre-record things like if I'm doing quick hits and stuff like that, and I'll periodically like, okay, let me launch this into the ether and whatnot. But how I got around the idea of the mythical writer's block. Um, to me, I don't think it exists. Most of the time, it's just an issue, in my opinion, of like, how do I tackle this particular portion? So, usually what I do with Upload Protocol, say like I get stuck somewhere where it's like, how do I resolve this issue? I'll usually skip ahead a couple of chapters and be like, oh, that's how I can resolve that issue. Because again, you wouldn't believe how much stuff popped out of when I was writing the Avalon issue. That won't probably come out for a couple more days. I'm hard at work on getting the Christmas portion done. And even sometimes at work, that's why I'll have my little notebook with me, the tiny one that I can shove in my pocket. Because sometimes when I'm on break, like an idea will come to me ooh, that's how I can solve that. Because sometimes looking at book stuff for myself and for what reading and writing habits I have, it's more of a case of not so much I don't know what to do, but just how do I want to solve a particular problem or get a person to a particular goal or a particular staging area, I guess. And sometimes the answers are just kind of simple. It's like if you can't think of if you have a harder time on thinking what the antagonist has to do, just think about what the hero's doing. And then sometimes it could be something as simple as like, okay, if my heroes are over here grabbing MacGuffin A, then the villains are over here plotting to steal MacGuffin C or something. But if you're gonna have any MacGuffins in your story, just have them have a purpose. Even if it's a simple purpose as like if they get this piece of the puzzle, then they can access a back door to whatever you know goal there is. Like for me, when I do introduce any kind of like a artifact or anything with Apple Protocol, even the gems that that Mr. Apple gave Gino a while back, way back in Book Zero, those will have symbolic effect later. You know, much later on in the story. It's not that I don't forget the things I placed in the story. It's just that their overall purpose, the payoff will happen later. And not all payoffs have to be like earth shattering. Again, all my perspective and opinion. They don't have to be all earth shattering, like, the close off of the Shadow War from Babylon 5 kind of ending stuff. Sometimes it could just be a simple little payoff. Like I'm slowly building stuff up with Augie to and for those of us who love dogs, the ending for Augie's stuff is going to be adorable. So every payoff doesn't have to be some earth-shattering event that changes everything. I only have a handful of artifacts that'll really do that. Some of them are legitimately something to where it's like kind of like the hero or the villain has to either acquire or protect the artifact or whatever kind of ley line point. Because again, I'm setting it up in the books where Toth is trying to pollute each ley line so he can resummon his army of the Unity Dead, that sort of thing. And sadly and unfortunately, um, Earth has more stuff that he can call upon, not because humans are killing each other, but because behind the scenes, Demi's taking out other magical creatures, not containing them in the weave properly. Uh, that darn asteroid they found that had all the bones and all the other creepy stuff that the keepers had in there. That's gonna play a role once all the dead rise and try to come after Earth. Because again, but in my case, I'm doing that kind of little bit of a zombie angle differently. You'll see once it plays out. Because what Toph doesn't realize is because of all the counteractions of Diaxi, slash Mr. Apple, and his whole contingent, he won't be able to summon the bulk of what he wants. It'll look like it at first, and also a certain Dexter is going to be able to interfere with that, because while Eliza's overall belt power level is going to be triple or quadruple that of her brother's, it's because she's going to be have to be a shield for the entirety of like all life in the multiverse. Like I'm slowly building up to that. And then but with Dexter though, his belt helps govern uh death and the weave and a few other little things. So no, Dexter's definitely going to have his role too. But then again, like all this stuff really won't culminate until like probably about the end of book 3, because book 4 is going to be kind of the start of the Typha arc. So yeah, we got some time. Probably book 3 will be the longest of from 0 to 3 that I'll probably have, just because book 3 has to settle some accounts with what's going to happen with the Markav Homegeny, Toph himself. Not to say that maybe Toph won't be relevant, you know, after book 3. It's just the main push of his threat is going to be, for the most part concluded, unless I end up changing some aspects later. It may or may not happen, but I planned on like book 0 through 3, Toph would be the overall bigger bad guy to face. Then 4, 5, and 6 would have the All Father. 7, 8, 9 would deal more with like Kronos coming back to the fore, and then mixing in with some more of the All Father's allies, and then the other books would be like them tackling the rest of the stuff with Unity, and taking care of Kronos once and for all, and that sort of thing. So yeah, I just wanted to make it kind of like a slower build up in that regard. I mean, you'll still see the heroes and villains doing like fist fight and kind of like clashing every once in a while, because yes, it's superhero stuff. You have to have some sort of fist fight every once in a while, or through if you're a tech hero like missiles, or magic, with Robin with his bow. Now, what'll be important though for when some of the Tots armies do arise, like the heroes that can operate in space, it's going to be vital for them to do certain things. It's going to be a fun ride, I think. I guess I could put this in, mainly since I'm mostly talking about Uplift Protocol in this regard. I can put it over there. I've been updating some of my other tabs on the channel, so there you go. I get overall, writer's block to me is just people trying to figure out where do I want to place this stuff in the middle. Because if you have a very clear beginning and a very clear ending, you're wondering like, what should I put in the middle of that sandwich? So again, sometimes I go a little bit past the point that I'm a little bit like, how should I resolve this? I'll go forward into the book setup. I'll see like, oh, boom, I could do that. Because at first I was like, what am I gonna do with this sword? I'm like, what kind of artifact should Belle find? And then when I'm writing Avalon, I'm like, wait, Excalibur's gonna have a dark mirror. Yes, there we go. And usually I find for me, it with story writing, I like having a clear contrast between, like the push and pull between the hero and the villain, no matter if that hero is human or otherwise. So usually if I'm stumped on something, I'm like, I just ask myself, what do you really, really dislike about most kind of like what do you call it, themes in different wheelhouses that are getting catered to the most? And it's like, okay, if they're getting fed, then what do you want to feed today? And by now, most people, probably through reading Uplift Protocol and everything else, know what kind of wheelhouses I want to feed. So, yeah, overall, I think writer's block is more of a mindset thing rather than like, oh, I can't come up with anything. Yeah, you can. Trust me. Take it from me, I've only been a writer. Well, here, let me look at it. Let's see. Today's 11/19, and the first draft of Uplift Protocol I wrote back in the beginning of November of last year. Oh boy, I've only been writing for like a year, guys. Let's do this. See you later.